I'm going to start with a few tiny moon poems. Walking home one night, I catch the moon winking at me through the trees. I'm gripping my house keys, sharp end pointing outwards between my knuckles. It's like glimpsing an old friend through a crowd. I soften. She is a slither, leaning towards the soft end of yellow. I breathe in the night, lift my finger to fill in the circle, squinting. Turning onto the stretch of road that I don't like, lampless and narrow, I tell her, I will be calling on you as a witness if something happens. I will testify that you saw the whole terrible thing through one half-closed eye. Thanks. They're really funny. The moon bathers. Last night we slept under a full moon. Our bodies wound like pale snakes through the silver-tipped grass. We opened our mouths and let the light fall in. Have you ever tried it? It's the closest light to water, cool and wordless, pooling on your eyelids. We slept deeply, eyes open, our breath becoming something pulled from us. We felt the weight of water in the air and wild laughter began to well up inside. We threw back our spotlit heads and let it pour forth till morning. Phases of the moon, things I have done. New moon. I ransack the house for something that does not exist. Waxing crescent. I ate 12 peaches. First quarter. I typexed an old letter from him, leaving only the word basement. Waxing gibbous. I put on my favourite underwear and cried in the mirror. Full moon. I buried a pork chop in the garden, walked backwards, howled. Waning gibbous. I thought a great deal about drilling a hole in my head. Third quarter. I told my neighbour my heart beats only for her. Waning crescent. I stood outside facing the house and waited for myself to appear. I asked him to check the roof, then took the ladder away. All night I enjoyed the lie, not feeling well, upstairs in bed, but sends his love. I could feel his frustration above me, through the ceiling. Could feel it so strongly, it was as though my chest were the roof and he was trapped inside me. How will we go on after, I thought. How will I end this? He hadn't called for help. Maybe he'd worked out a way down, but I didn't think so. The dinner party was wonderful. As the guests left, I looked up and realised that there was no moon. Shine, darling, I whispered. And from behind the chimney rose his little head. Thank you. It's really nice to be here. Thank you, Anna. And sand, and sand, and sand, and sand. I have this friend who's into sand. Not like the beach, like sand you might use in construction. The economics of sand. Buying and selling sand. Not that he buys or sells, but he enjoys, for example, that there is a black market for sand. This friend is a writer. He writes novels in which characters are obsessed with sand. Buried in sand, crack a tooth on some sand stuck to a sandwich. When he describes the act of eating sand, he describes it so vividly, I know he's done it. I don't even need to ask. He likes to eat things. He's a good cook. He also ate a lover's hair once. It's not like he's got a sand fetish. Although scrutinise anything for long enough, it might as well be your kink. There's porn for everyone now. I'm sure there's sand porn. I'm going to Google sand porn. An hour has passed and it's just sun-coloured bodies on a beach, and I don't feel any different. And yet I am changed. Walking through the city with this friend who used to love cities and now loves sand. I wonder if there is anything left to be interested in. Get off my sand, he'll say when he reads this. But it's not about sand. It's about those times I've fallen asleep at parties and woken to him, high as the great dune of Pilat, his eyes like gaping coal pits, which doesn't fit the theme, but boy, are those eyes black, kneeling over me saying, don't sleep yet. And although the sofa is deep and my limbs are shallow, dead weights in the shallow end of the pool, I do get up, and I'm glad to watch us from my vantage point somewhere between the present and my mind's eye. Two misshapen grains, buffeted, angular, dancing as the sun cuts across the window in a building, 20 miles wide, 20 miles high, stretching further than our tiny human eyes can see. When I was 19, I went to art school for a year and made some pretty weird stuff. And I think, at least when I was that young, I won't speak for any other 19-year-olds, I didn't really realise that the power that art can have, and that sometimes there are lines that you should think about crossing. And I made something then that I still feel pretty weird about. The film. The sun was shining as we ambled around campus, stopping boys and men and asking them to hit me across the face. They all refused at first, but we told them it was art and necessary, so they slapped me, one after another. I realised to make them do it, I had to harden my eyes, provoke. Each boy did a comedy slap, palm to face, apologised before and after. It was hot and bright. We flirted with a geographer whose slap was light, his fingers just brushing my cheek, as though turning my face to the side to see my profile. We had about 20 guys on film. My friend's boyfriend turned up and we asked if he would do it. He kissed her and stood to face me. My friend pressed record and said, go. And I was laughing. Had forgotten to ready my face, my left cheek slightly pink from a day of slapping. I was not ready for his backhand. Quick and strong, a strange noise as though he'd slapped the laugh right off me, a thicker pain than a sting, an immediate loss of breath. We were silent for a moment, and I looked at my friend whose hand had gone to her cheek automatically, the camera's red light still blinking. And I knew we would never watch the film, that I would feel sick and guilty as long as the bruise lasted, longer, having asked for what wasn't mine. Thank you. I'm going to read one more. Thank you so much for listening. I thought I'd end with something a bit saucier. I grew up in... Well, I live in Deptford now, but I grew up in Cornwall. Fucking in Cornwall. The rain is thick and there's half a rainbow over the damp beach. Just put your hand up my top. I've walked around that local museum 100 times, and I've decided that the tiny stuffed dog labelled the smallest dog in the world is a fake. Kiss me in a pasty shop with all the ovens on. I've held a warm new egg on a farm and thought about fucking. I've held a tiny green crab in the palm of my hand. I pulled my sleeve over my fingers and picked a nettle and held it to a boy's throat like a sword. Unlace my shoes in that alley and lift me gently onto the bins. The bright morning sun is coming and coming, and the holiday children have their yellow buckets ready. Do you remember what it felt like to dig a hole all day with a tiny spade just to watch it fill with sea? Fuck me like that. Like water feeling its way over an edge. Like two bright red anemones in a rock pool, tentacles waving ecstatically. Like the gorse has caught fire across the moors and you are the ghost of a fisherman who always hated land. Thank you.